And I paid a fine of $5,000 and I retired from the United States military. Let me tell you something. When I have a responsibility for the lives of 600 soldiers under my care, I'm going to do what is necessary without hurting anyone else severely to make sure that my men come back to their husband, to their wives, to their children.
Allen West enters Boston University, and it's obvious from the start that the room isn't exactly welcoming him. Two students step forward with selected quotations, historical records, and a collection of West's own tweets, clearly prepared to challenge him. Yet he remains unfazed. He cites the memo, identifies the treaty, and gives the exact date. As the exchange continues, the questions become more detailed, while West's responses grow increasingly precise. Even when a skeptical audience applauds a difficult question, West doesn't avoid it, he takes it on directly. This is what happens when someone refuses to fake it or simply give people the answer they expect. Let's get into it.
My name is Ibrahim Rashid. I'm a Pakistani-American Muslim. I just want to tell you just a little bit about myself before I ask you a question. So, I study international relations over here at Boston University. I've staffed elections, worked on elections, worked in campaigns, worked in courts, worked with Homeland Security on countering violent extremism initiatives. So, I'm a patriotic American who wants to go into public service to serve this country. Now, once you know that about myself, I just want to bring up something that you've said in the past that I was hoping to ask you a little bit about. So let me just pull it up. Any previous campaign event that you've had, let me just pull this up right here. You once said, and I will quote, "We already have a fifth column that is already infiltrating into our colleges, into our universities, into our high schools, into our religious aspect, our cultural aspect, our financial, our political systems in this country. And that enemy represents something called," and I quote you, "Islam. And Islam is a totalitarian, theocratic political ideology. It is not a religion. It has not been a religion since 622 AD. And we need to have individuals that stand up and say that."
Ibrahim Rashid begins by laying out his resume. He studied international relations at Boston University, with experience involving elections, political campaigns, and homeland security. Then the setup changes. He pulls up West's fifth column comment and reads it directly from his phone. Word for word. It's a calculated move, almost like something from a prosecutor's playbook. Put the statement in front of everyone. Let the tension build, and then deliver the question. But West has seen this kind of setup before. Watch as he takes control of the conversation before the trap has a chance to close.
Well, let me ask you this. Have you ever...
I definitely have a question.
You're not asking a question. You're just reading a statement. Now, I'm going to ask you... because I know what you're trying to say. All due respect to you, too. Have you ever read the Strategic Memorandum of the Muslim Brotherhood that was written in 1991 by Muhammad Akram that was found in an FBI raid in 2004 in the basement of a house in Northern Virginia?
Yes, I have. And if you were the Constitution of Medina... The Constitution of the Medina was the last document that Prophet Muhammad put out before he passed away. And
did you ever read the Treaty of Hudaybiyah?
No, but, sir...
I mean, we can go back and forth on historical documents.
Sir, with all due respect, sir, I haven't even asked my question.
I know, that's why I'm waiting on it.
So let me ask you the question. So, you know, you've called Islam a theocratic political ideology.
Okay.
So my first question...
So what is Iran?
So my first question is, how do you define a religion? And from there on, what makes Islam not a religion in your eyes? And then from there on, are you suggesting that American Muslims, such as myself, are not worthy of religious protections and religious rights as enshrined in our Constitution?
There it is. Rashid claims he has studied the 1991 memorandum, and West immediately responds by naming the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. Pay attention to who actually came prepared with the evidence. Then West delivers 4 words that shape the rest of the exchange. So what is Iran? Rashid responds by accusing West of taking away the constitutional rights of American Muslims. But West never made that claim. His argument was directed at an ideology, not an entire group of people. Keep that distinction in mind, because it becomes crucial to everything that comes next.
I did not say that.
So explain, how do you define a religion?
As a matter of fact, I left my house plenty of times to go over and fight in Kuwait and in Afghanistan and Iraq for the ability for an individual to have freedom. But if you want me to sit here and deny history, if you want me to sit here and act like some things have never happened, I'm not going to do that. I do not have the onus to, make a statement about what is fact. Okay, we can go back and we can read the Quran, we can read the Hadith, we can read the Sunnah, we can compare it up with history, and we can see that there was a definite departure from a basic religious belief in 622 AD, and you can see the verses, how they changed. And I understand Islamic jurisprudence, and I understand the Arabic term nakish, which means subsequent verses of the Quran supersede the previous verses, but they're all still the verses of Allah as given down to Muhammad. So what I'm trying to tell you is when I look at the Islamic Republic of Iran, when I look at Saudi Arabia, and how interesting it is that Saudi Arabia was just put on the Commission for Women's Rights when they have the greatest violation of women's rights whatsoever. I have a problem with that, having two daughters.
He is asked to define a religion, but instead he points to Kuwait, Afghanistan, and Iraq, then brings up abrogation, followed by the Islamic Republic of Iran, and finally Saudi Arabia, holding a seat on the United Nations Commission on Women's Rights. Is he avoiding the question? To some extent, yes. But notice what he refuses to do. He won't give the audience the exact words they are waiting to hear, while the fact that Saudi Arabia holds that seat on women's rights is undeniable, and no one in that room seems eager to defend.
So I will tell you this, I'm happy to work with you, but I think we need to come to an understanding that there is a problem. And if you want to continue on, as we just saw current administration, last administration do, with obfuscation, denial, and dismissal. I think one of the worst things that President Obama did was when he stood up there in August of 2014 and said, let me make myself very clear, ISIS is not Islamic. Well, I don't know what the I stands for. It's not Southern Baptist, it's not Mennonite, it's not Presbyterian. So you have to take the enemy for who they are and what they say they are doing, especially when the leader of the caliphate of ISIS has a PhD in Islamic studies. So I'm going to listen to him and I'm going to take him for who he is. But I will tell you.
And there's the statement the entire room will probably be talking about tomorrow. West says ISIS is not Islamic. He doesn't get into a theological debate. Instead, he simply asks what the I actually represents. Not Southern Baptist, not Mennonite, and not Presbyterian. Then comes the point that makes the argument even more controversial. The leader of the caliphate reportedly holds a PhD in Islamic studies. You can argue that the comparison is unfair, but you can't simply dismiss the claim as inaccurate. Rashid has no response to that point, and he doesn't attempt to give one.
That I thank you for standing up and doing what is necessary, just the same as I thanked those interpreters and translators that stood there with me fighting in Iraq and fighting in Afghanistan. But if there's to be a change in the Muslim world, if you want to call it that way, we need the young people to stand up. And the sad thing that we have not done in the United States of America, we have not stood up with you, just the same as the Green Movement in Iran, just the same as we misread the Arab Spring, just the same as we stood next with the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. We have made some very bad decisions.
Watch what West does next. Instead of attacking the person challenging him, he thanks him and compares Rashid to the interpreters who accompanied him during patrols in Iraq and Afghanistan. Then, he shifts the focus entirely, placing the criticism not on Muslims, but on Washington. He points to the lack of American support for the Green Movement, argues that the Arab Spring was badly misunderstood, and recalls how America extended its hand to the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt. It becomes a criticism of American foreign policy delivered to an audience that expected to hear from a bigot. But the exchange clearly did not unfold the way they expected.
And with all due respect, sir, you have not answered my question. What defines a religion and why is Islam not a religion? Because in your words, Islam is not a theocratic idea.
Since 622 AD, since 622 AD, it has not reflected itself as being a religion, but yet it can still call itself a religion. That's the whole purpose of, like I said, the theory of abrogation. But we have got to understand that there is something that is happening that we need to work together to dismiss. And when I see the Organization of Islamic Cooperation that does not understand that there is a problem with Islamic jihadism, when I see an organization like the Council for American Islamic Relations that are, doing things to shut down free speech and shut down people that want to talk about this jihadist problem, then I see them more a part of the problem than a part of the solution.
He finally addresses the question, and his response connects back to the same points from the quote, 622 AD and abrogation, He then names specific organizations, including the Organization of Islamic Cooperation and the Council on American Islamic Relations, accusing them of silencing people who want to discuss jihadism, whether you agree with him or not. That is a specific accusation aimed at specific organizations. Rashid asked him to define the issue, but instead received a list of targets. Now watch as Rashid shifts the conversation in a completely different direction.
Do you believe that Muslims are not condemning terrorism when they're the largest victims of jihadism and terrorism?
Well, I tell you something. If they were condemning terrorism, we probably wouldn't have as much terrorism. Okay? But I will tell you this. I will blame President Obama for not supporting the president of Jordan, King Abdullah, who, when he was here visiting this country, at the time when that pilot was burned, he got on a plane, went back, and started bombing ISIS. You know why he had to stop bombing ISIS? Because the Obama administration stopped supplying fuel for the jets and weapon systems.
Rashid asks whether Muslims condemn terrorism, and West responds with a direct answer, before shifting the discussion to King Abdullah of Jordan. He brings up the pilot who was burned alive, the aircraft that were sent into action, and the fuel that Washington was allegedly accused of withholding for West. That single story captures his entire argument. Those confronting jihadists on the ground were left without support by the people discussing the conflict from a distance. Then another student steps forward, and this time the issue isn't theology at all. She arrives prepared with West's Twitter history.
Yunus. I am a junior here at Boston University. I'm also a Muslim and also an Iraqi American. I just have a really quick question for you. So on June 10th, 2013, you tweeted, "Bill Cosby said we should be more like Muslims." You mean honor killings, beheadings, suicide bombings? Hope you're kidding, sir. I was just wondering, what makes you think that I, a young Muslim without a violent background, is more likely to commit an act of terror or violence than you, a man who spews hate speech, slanders my religion and my people, and admitted to using improper, unlawful, and downright disgusting interrogation tactics during your time in my home country, Iraq, which violated Articles 128 and 134 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice.
Yep, and I got...
That is the loudest reaction from the room all evening. Yasmin Ununase brings up a 2013 tweet involving Bill Cosby, and then asks why she should be considered more dangerous than he is. She labels West a promoter of hate speech, and references 2 sections of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. The audience responds with huge applause. But the question focuses almost entirely on West's character, rather than addressing the argument he had been making. She never directly challenges his point about abrogation. Now watch how West responds.
And I paid a fine of $5,000, and I retired from the United States military. Let me tell you something. When I have a responsibility for the lives of 600 soldiers under my care, I'm going to do what is necessary without hurting anyone else severely to make sure that my men come back to their husband, to their wives, to their children. Because when I stood before all of their families in that pre-deployment brief, I made that promise. And I don't run around talking about being proud of what I did, but if I had to do it again, I would. And if I had to take an action to save you, I would as well. So that's what I want you to understand. And maybe one day you get to grow up and you be a combat commander and you have lives that you're in charge of.
He doesn't hesitate. He acknowledges the fine, confirms his retirement, and then lays out exactly what led to it. There were 600 soldiers, a pre-deployment briefing, and a commitment he had made to their families. He doesn't hide behind attorneys, and he doesn't offer an apology. Instead, he says he would make the same decision again, and that he would have done the same for her. You can't honestly say he avoided the question. Compare that with the politicians who might spend 5 minutes talking around the issue without ever giving a straight answer.
Now let's talk about the other things. I want you to stand up. I want you to fight. We've got this thing going on right now in the United States of America about female genital mutilation. I want to see more people stand up and speak out against that. We got a young lady by the name of Linda Sarsour who has talked about female genital mutilation and also Sharia law. but yet she's getting an invitation to go give a commencement address. I don't think we should be rewarding people that have those type of beliefs. But yet we have a person like Ayaan Hirsi Ali that we don't allow to go on college campuses and speak. So yes, I'm going to kind of put my finger in your chest, and I want you to stand up, and I want you to fight. And I want you to start joining with us to correct the things that, as you are saying, is perverting your religion.
And now he goes on the offensive. West brings up female genital mutilation being prosecuted in the United States and asks who is actually speaking out against it. He points to Linda Sarsour being invited to deliver a commencement address, while Ayaan Hirsi Ali was disinvited from campuses. That contrast becomes one of the sharpest points he makes throughout the night. One speaker is given a platform, while the other faces a protest. Neither student has an answer for that comparison. Now, watch how West brings the exchange to a close.
Well, then let's find out how we can keep this from continuing on and happening. I don't want to see another Fort Hood. That was my last duty station. The fact that I live in a country where government still calls that workplace violence, that's disgusting to me. The fact that we have San Bernardino, Orlando, the fact that you had what happened here in Boston, and we had a magazine that put that person on the front cover. I don't want that to happen, and you should be speaking out about that as well. So you can be upset about some of the things that I say, but I'm going to continue to say it because you know something, I do have a right.
Two students arrived prepared, one carrying historical records, and the other bringing years of West's tweets. But neither managed to get Allen West to retract a single word. He finished much like he began, returning to a list of issues that the room seemed unwilling to confront. Fort Hood was still officially classified as workplace violence, while San Bernardino, Orlando, and a bomber from their own city appeared on a magazine cover. Rashid asked West to define a religion, while Ununici challenged him over his record. West's response to both was essentially the same: stand up and fight alongside him. But he never received an answer. So what do you think? Did West successfully make his case? Or did the students reveal something he couldn't defend? Share your thoughts in the comments.